Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Performance Link for this brand new series of the Performance Link GT3 Club. My name is Andy Thompson, and I'm joined in the commentary booth with Mr. Dave Whitehouse, and we have in the production box Lewis Araya. So, Dave, welcome to the broadcast. Brand new league, first round here at Watkins Glen. It's going to be a good one, mate.
Yeah, welcome everybody to the broadcast. And this, like Andy said, this brand new championship that Performance Link have brought to you. Quite a familiar feel with the GT3 Cup and the format of races, which follow quite a few other leagues. But we have some special things involved, including 4 different classes for each driver to get their teeth into.
Yeah, we do there. So just to run you down to give you a little flavour of what's coming up, this is round one tonight. We have 3 race formats. Format A, which is 2 30-minute sprint races with no pit stop. Format B is an hour-long race with 1 pit stop in there. And Format C is a mini endurance race with a 2-hour race, as many pit stop is needed in that, probably 2 on that. But tonight we are going to be using the 2 30-minute sprint sessions here. And as you said, Dave, we've got 4 classes here tonight on the grid. We've got a pro class, pro-am, and we've got a rookie class as well. So it's pretty much a full grid. I'm just looking. I think we got around about 53 racers here tonight from them 4 classes. It's going to be an absolute amazing race. It's going to be hectic, I think, at the start, Dave, though. 53 cars going round turn 1 up through the S's and on the inner loop on that first lap. It's going to be a hair-raising ride to get past that first lap.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Turn 1 isn't the corner that I'm particularly worried about in terms of trying to get the cars through, because we have that huge runoff on the exit that everybody can attempt to use, even though they'll want to try and keep those instant points down to a minimum. The run up through turns 2, 3, 4, that's going to be the bottleneck. If somebody loses it in there, there's not a lot of places to go. So drivers will really have to be on their toes to try and get through those opening few laps without an instant or damage. 30 minutes, obviously less chance of coming through the field if it was an hour or 2-hour format, but these drivers we're bedding them in nicely with a couple of 30 minutes.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we started them off with a very good track, Watkins Glen. Probably my personal favourite on iRacing. You've got to love having that boot section with the inner loop, which always throws up a lot of issues. We may see a few cars getting it slightly wrong by that inner loop and spitting out and hitting the walls. We did see in the practice last night a couple of the drivers came a cropper in that corner, but coming down into the chute is always a good corner as well. But we got a good round here, and obviously the setups. We've chosen to have a fixed setup, so we're using the iRacing baseline sprint setup. We have put some more fuel in to enable the drivers to do the 30-minute race without having any pit stops. So the drivers have been frantically trying to get a bit of experience on there. But the format for tonight is we are currently in the tail end of the 2-hour practice session that all the guys and lady have on track. We're then going to go into a 10-minute open qualifying. I mean, that is going to be absolutely vitally important to be able to get up the grid, get to the front end of the grid, because if you're at the back end of the grid, like you were saying, Dave, coming up through their messes, if someone has an incident through there, it literally will become a car park with all the cars behind. So it's very vital that we try to get this. Then we have a 30-minute race, a 5-minute warm-up session before race number 2. Race number 2 will be the results of race 1 with the top 8 inverted, just to add a little bit of spice to what should be relatively all-pro class up there at the front. But it's going to be an interesting race to get this 12 round off underway. And just give you a flavour of the calendar as we go through. So we've got Watkins Glen tonight, Sebring next week in Format B, so the hour-long race. Then we have Silverstone on the 16th of the 10th, and that is another hour-long race. Then we have a couple of weeks break for the drivers. Then we come back again on the beginning of November at Donington National. That's going to be an A format, so 2 30-minute races. Then we got the full 24-hour game strike for the Nürburgring. That's an hour-long race, so that should be very interesting. Then we have Spa, the first of our 2-hour mini endurance races. Then we have in December, on the first Sunday, we go to Fuji, the Grand Prix track, for another 2 30-minute sessions. Then we head to Suzuka and Daytona on the 18th of December, both Format B, so an hour long. And then the last 3 rounds of the season are the first 3 Sundays in January. So we have the Red Bull Ring as Format A, 2 30-minute sessions. Then we go to Interlagos for a Format B, and then the season finale is around the world famous Le Mans for our second of the endurance series, so the 2-hour races there. So that should be a really good one. And the other thing and differences that we've done in this series is we've not put the points on overall finishing positions. We've actually done it by class. So to try and promote a lot closer racing throughout the whole series, so somebody can't just run away with their particular class. It should be quite close all the way to the end, Dave, and it's just made out for what is going to be an epic 12 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just about to think about telling people about the points, where the Format A with the 2 races, it's 15 points each for the winner of each round, so there's 30 points on offer. Format B, which is the hour-long race, you also have 30 points on offer for the winner of your class, whereas the Format C just balances a little bit more with 45 for the winner, so that could swing a championship either way. But it'll be really interesting to see each driver and team heading for them coveted trophies, which we talked about in the test stream yesterday, and Andy will be sorting those out for the drivers and teams, and the drivers also have prizes to go for. Now, these vary depending on which class you're from. So if you're from a rookie class, some of the prizes are things like drive attrition from a pro driver so that you can improve yourself and move yourself forward. Whereas further up, obviously, pro drivers won't be looking for that kind of thing. So they have different kinds of prizes like signed track prints, easier said than done, from Thomas Cope Photography, which we've got as one of our sponsors in the series. And there's plenty there for drivers to try and get the teeth into, and these prizes go through the top 3 of each of these classes. So 4 classes, 12 prizes on offer, and that's just for the results of the points.
Yeah, it definitely is. Another one on the points. The points difference between first and second is only 2 points, and then from the rest of the field all the way down to sort of P15 is only 1 point difference. So you can see that going through the season is going to be extremely close in each one of the different classes, the 4 classes we've got here on show tonight, and it's going to be really hair raising out there, but it's going to be nose to tail racing throughout the whole season with not one person running away. I think you normally find it in the league, don't you? You normally find what they call the seal clubbers that just completely decimate a field and the rest of the field sort of go off. But even if there is somebody that does get massively ahead of the rest of their class, they're not going to get a mountain of points. They're only going to get 1 or 2 points extra, which, at the end of it, anything can happen in one of these races. They do have 2 drop round scores to be able to fall back on if all else fails within the sessions. But so 10 rounds count in the 12, and obviously you want to get them C-class rounds. Like you said, there's a little bit more points on offer, so you really don't want to be dropping them.
No, you certainly don't want to be using drops just for the sake of it. And I can see there's plenty of people in the chat now watching us on the stream. So if you do like what you see, please subscribe to Performance Link and give us a thumbs up with the like button, because it does help our stream get out there, and we will be doing live streaming all 12 rounds. Plus, on a Wednesday evening, we'll have the addition of a little rundown of the race we just had and a live stewarding session of any appeals or discussion points from the races. Hopefully, we won't have too much to do in that regard.
Yeah, we'll also try and get a driver to come in so we can find a little bit more about the history. We see a lot of these drivers, and a lot of the drivers in this championship you will recognize, but you don't know a little bit about them. So we are going to try to get each Wednesday a new driver on to just give them a little bit of a history, their background, not all just from the pros, but we're actually going to try to get them from all classes. So all the newcomers get in, see how they're getting on, and then we've got the pros as well going on. So we have now moved over to the 10. We'll just come into the end of the practice, then we go into our 10-minute open qualifying. They can do as many laps as they want around that 10 minutes. I think they're probably going to need it, Dave, because, you know, we have currently got 53 cars on this grid. We do have 62 that have signed up for the championship, obviously missing a few here tonight, so straight away they are getting their drop round score. But with a track that's only about 141, 145, having 53 drivers on it, it's going to be extremely tight, so you really need to maximize where you're going to find that space. Try and get that little bit of slipstream in, but not get caught up by a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be about finding your space. Luckily, it's a boot version of Wilton Mill. Sorry, I'm on a kart mindset there of Watkins Glen. So we've got that little bit more space. If it was a NASCAR version, it might be a little bit more difficult. You can see on the left-hand side the timing tower. Colours for you to look out for this season: pro drivers will have a red marker next to their name. Pro AMs green. AMs will have the blue marker, and whites will be the rookie class. And each of these drivers will also have their racing number to help identify them. So anybody who is in pro class will have a 1 or 2 digit number. Anybody from the pro-ams will have 100 at the start of their number, so 160, 168 for example. With the AMs we will have 200 at the start, so you could be 201, you could be 299, and the rookies is anything with a 3 before it. So it just helps us identify the drivers a little bit more, along with, as you can probably see, their driver windscreen visor stickers, which just you know, let us know a little bit easier who is who and what class.
Yeah, we always want it nice and big to be able to recognise us as commentators.
Yeah.
So as we see our first car there coming up through the toe, just getting it slightly from a very tricky corner that you've really got to be committed. But if you get on that pedal too early, you can see what that McLaren did and actually spun around. But it's actually nice to have a big display of cars out on track. We've actually even got the elusive Ford GT3 out on the field for a round. So not many leagues have I seen the Ford being represented, but we do have a single solitary Ford driver, very brave. But if you know that name, Jakob Behrens, he is exceptionally quick pro driver, so taking up the challenge of driving a car that no one else seems to want to. So will that be a curse for him, or will he really start to get to grips with this and have this Ford at the front end? It'd be nice to have a Ford, wouldn't it, Dave, at the front end of the field? We could probably say we're the only league that's got a Ford GT3 in the actual league.
Yeah, it'd be great to see it near the front of the field as we see him hop through the chicane there. And we've got a couple of McLarens in as well, which is good to see, because these two cars aren't the most popular, shall we say, in the GT3 field for iRacing. I'm sure iRacing over the seasons will make them, shall we say, up to the standards that some of the drivers expect. But it doesn't mean you can't do anything with them now. If they suit your driving style, that is the way it goes. As we now look at Lydia Rosa heading down towards the chicane on one of her qualifying laps, and it's really good to see a spread of drivers here. This is a AM driver, as you can see by the number being 222, the windshield, and also the colour on the timing tower when that is shown.
Yeah, it's also it's good that we've obviously Lydia's our only female on the grid, and it's good to see that we do have more of the females coming to join us on iRacing and getting into the mix. So it's great to have Lydia on the grid to show what she can do amongst a very predominant male field, but I'm pretty sure she'll do. But one thing that we will give her straight away is that striking livery on that Mercedes, very pink, so you'll be able to to spot Lydia from a mile off on the grid. But yeah, all the cars now just some of the cars will be on their first actual time lap. It takes about 1:40 to get around here, so we should start to see some times popping up relatively soon as we watch Dan Fenwick there, Fenwick Racing, coming around towards the end of this Watkins Glen. This corner there and this corner coming up can be very tricky. You really got to be dedicated going through there to maximise the speed, because plenty of cars get it wrong coming around that corner and either spin off wide or literally spin into the wall on the inside. So quite a few of the drivers now are on their hot laps, so we'll start seeing the thing. Can we put the track map up, Lewis, and just see where all the cars are currently out on the track? So see that? No, we're not seeing any cars there, so it's an empty track according to our overlay.
But we can certainly see it's not, as we now look at John Trister in the Evo SR Black. Another thing I would like to say to everybody is, we may not get your name right first straight away. We will get it right, possibly by the season's end. But no, if we're not 100% sure, please let us know, and we will try our best to get it right as the race goes on. But you can see this queue of cars and a queue of Porsches as well in this line, as we now look at Thomas Cope. He's gone to the top of the timesheet through a 42.0 in the pro category. When these drivers will qualify, yes, while we're scoring in separate classes, we can't split them on the grid. So if a Pro-Am suddenly sets the fastest lap time quicker than all pros, he will be on pole position whatever happens. So it will be something that the drivers will have in mind, that Pro-Ams might get involved with pros, the Ams might get involved with Pro-Ams on the grid, and you have to pick your fights at the start of this race.
We certainly do, and we see there on the track map, we can see all the cars now, so Lewis is working his magic in the production box to get them, and you can see very closely compact, just trying to get that slipstream, but that could come across as we see Max there coming on the outer loop, taking that corner completely wrong, maybe getting out of the way of the Ford, getting a bit scared of the presence of that Ford GT3, probably thinking, what is that car? I've never seen that before out on track. But yeah, Max getting it slightly wrong there coming on the outer loop, so his time will not be very representative on this lap. But like you said, we got another 5 minutes 10 seconds to go to set laps, so probably another 2 or 3 laps these drivers will be able to do. They can't change any of their setups, as we said. They will be using the sprint setup with full race fuel, so there's no advantage in the qualifiers. We're seeing they're just warming up his tyres a little bit more. Probably needs to get a little bit of a gap between himself and the cars in front to still keep that slipstream, but obviously offset for any incidents that some of the drivers may do in front, because what you don't want to be doing is a hot lap and then have the car in front of you accidentally spin out and put pay to it. But at the moment, topping the tower is Thomas Cope, a 142 dead. He did do a 141 in practice, as we see in there on his rig, very bright rig, triple setup, which is probably the way a lot of the drivers do go if they're not using sort of VR headsets. And I think Lydia is using a VR headset, and I do believe Russ Fowler uses a VR headset as well. Very brave. I don't think I would like to.
Yeah, VR's not too bad if you remember to charge it. I do know people who have ended up in the middle of the race and it failing, or them running out of battery, which obviously is not the ideal thing to happen in the middle of, especially a 24-hour race, but in these half-an-hour races, it will put you out of the race. Triple screens, yeah, it takes away the excuse that I didn't see you, because you get them side screens to see the car coming alongside, whereas my little one screen, at least I can use that excuse when I'm racing, as we now see Harry Wills going up the inside of the Olympus Esports car and Twisted Racing WSL. Harry Wills is in currently 6th place and 5th in terms of the pro category, because Max Wolf has popped himself up into 5th overall, which is a brilliant start for the Pro-Am driver. And this is what I mean, the drivers are not just done on an iRating or anything like that. We go off the experience, so we should keep the drivers relatively together in terms of the grid, but there will be the odd time when people do sort of pull out a storming lap like Max Wolf has so far. So we're now looking at Kim Andre Borkland, who is going down towards. Oh, and he loses it out of chicane, and he's into the wall, and that is not ideal. And he's held the brake. He's trying to get out of the way, and he's into. Well,
The stratosphere, I think.
that isn't even the Shadow Realm. He's gone further than that, and yeah, it's not ideal when you spin out of there because there isn't really anywhere you can go. Because if you hold the brake, it's difficult to tell whether you need to get off the racing line or not. And luckily, it's in qualifying, so they can just jump back to the pits, get in another car, and off they go again.
Yeah, we're looking at that. One of the classic mistakes in that inner loop, taking this corner here, taking it too sharp, making that bounce on the inside, and it just sets you up wrong throughout the whole of that corner. And then, as we saw there, we just sort of lose it a little bit. Was Borkland, who's actually gone up to pro class from pro-am from the test sessions, was extremely quick on both of our test sessions, but has decided to take it as Madsia. They're just taking an alternate cup line around here, around the Watkins Glen, but Thomas Cope is still heading out the category at the top. There's still around about 10 drivers, Dave, that haven't set a time, and 2 of them are pro, of Matty Chalmers and Matt Loveridge, who have not set times at the moment. They really do not want to be at the back of this grid when we start.
No, I mean, we often see it in official races where drivers decide not to qualify because they want to control the safety rating or anything, but that is not affected in these races, and I think it's just a sense they really need to try and get at least somewhere up the grid. But then some drivers just fancy the challenge. You know, they know they may be in a certain place in the pro category, so would rather try and get a clean start off the back of the grid. But yeah, I wouldn't want that, as we now look at Nicholas Gronstrom, who in the 217 Porsche, the Swedish driver for Project Racing, is currently just sitting. He hasn't set a time yet, so this is one of the drivers we were just talking about who needs to come across the line for the AM category, and let's see where he pops himself in. If this is a fast lap, yes it is. He pops himself into 33rd overall.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I've just had a message from our producer, is due to the side, as we see Hendrik Carlton. I think he's a real life racing car driver as well there in the Porsche, just getting it slightly wrong coming around turn number 1. Currently only 20 seconds left of this qualifying, and we still have around about 5 drivers to set times. But the race, we are going to have an extra sort of safety lap at the start due to the size of the grid, just to warm them tyres up, warm the brakes up, which I think is a great call from the Performance Link team to be able to do that, because there's nothing worse than, and we've seen it in iRacing, in official iRacing series around here, is that carnage through turn 1 and up through the S's. So an extra safety lap will be put in along with the official one. But we can take you to the grid of the first ever race here in the Performance Link GT3 Cup, and our pole sitter is Thomas Koch, with Elliot Hender there in 2nd place. Nikolai Frayne is in 3rd, Oscar Christensen in 4th, Max Wolf, the pro-am driver, there in 5th place, very much sandwiched in there, Matt Loveridge in 6th, Harry Wills in 7th, Michael Hooper in 8th, Jacob Behrens in that Ford in 9th, James Lodgton in 10th place, Casper Tungsten in 11th, and Simeon Modev, our top am driver, there in 12th.
In 13th, we have Aaron Powell for the Evo SR team, the American doing well at his home circuit. Patrick Thompson in 14th. Kim Andre Borkland in 15th, who we saw go very well in the practices. Dean Powell in 16th. Chris Rance 17th. Scott Mokes 18th. Dean Timms 19th. Dan Merchant in 20th for privateer driver. Sander Island 21st, with Jan Mattis in 22nd. Steve Pearce and Bob Humphrey round out row 12.
In 25th place, we got Russ Fowler. 26th is Tom Stevens. 27th is Gordon Haig. In 28th, we got Alexander Scoret. 29th, we got Jim Varg. In 30th, we got Mad Sear. In 31, we got Arvid Vredvik. In 32nd, we have Phil Regan. In 33rd, we got one of the admins, Tom Bingham, there from Performance Link, so not the best, or probably a usual qualifying position for Tom in 33rd. In 34th, Nicholas Gronstrom. In 35th, Darren Doherty. And in 36th, Frederick Goldberg.
And then we have 37th, Victor Lind for the Fendi Racing team. Then Kevin Copeland in 38th, Hakon Gjulsen in 39th, Carl Gray in 40th. Nathan Healy is in 41st, ahead of Daniel Levick in 42nd. John Trisdida in 43rd from Dan Fendick in 44th. Alexander Rhodes, 45th. Daniel Slater, 46th. Lydia Rose, who we've been talking about on the stream off, Lady Racer in 47th. And Matthew Gerard, the Australian, or I want to say Australian, but it could be New Zealand flag. I don't want to insult, but in 40, the next up anyway.
Yeah, and in the back end of the grid, we got 45th Alexander Road in the McLaren. We got 46th Daniel Slater, 47th Lydia Rose, Matthew Gerard in 48th, Hendrik Harrodson in 49th, Morten Hansen in 50, Matty Chalmers 51st, 52nd is Jacob Semensky in 53rd is Richard Jameson Smith. 54th is Joe Sallen. Heading out the tail end of the grid is Paul Joseph Clist. So we've got a few pro drivers there at the back of the field, and it's going to be interesting to see what Matty Chalmers can do to try and make himself up. I mean, obviously the qualifying lap on here, not only did they have to contend with the cars, the 53 cars, the 55 cars that they had out on track, and we can just see them there just all sprawling down. It reaches from the inner loop all the way back to the top of the S's, so an extremely long grid. But not only did they have to try to find the clean space for the cars, Dave, they also had to watch them pesky off tracks as well. So you know, it's an extremely and well-deserved grid at the moment, certainly for Thomas Cope at the front with a 142. It's going to be an interesting race to see who can come through the pack.
Yeah, and I have just seen in the chat, in the game, that Sander Island missed the grid. So he will be starting from the pit lane, and it also looks like Matty Chambers, Jakub Samowski and Nicholas Gronstrom also all in the pits from the start of this one. So 4 drivers deciding it's better just start at the back because they're probably quite near the back anyway. So just, you know, you're losing a couple of positions to make sure you're safe. But here we go as they come around the boot section now. The safe pace car leading the way, and obviously the pace car will be peeling off, but the drivers will have to wait for another lap to go racing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that is a very good call. I mean, you can see the size of this grid, and this track is renowned for its issues through turn number 1 and certainly up through the S's, like you were mentioning before, Dave. You know, a car gets it wrong going up that S's and it just causes carnage. So by doing it this way, the tires get a little bit warmer, the brakes get a bit warmer, people should be braking on their usual braking markers. So therefore, you know, it should limit the amount of incidences we do get going up in that S's, because if you're offline from the normal racing line with warmer tyres, you've got a bit more of a chance to get the car stuck around that corner rather than if it was cold. But you can sort of see the size of the field. Really looking forward to this race. As long as we can get past that first lap with limited amount of incidents, I mean, we're in for a real treat. 30 minutes of racing ahead of us, and it's going to be interesting to see what Matty Chalmers. I'm expecting to be a really large gain for him to get up through the field, but we'll see. But so the safety car does peel off, and like we said, there's another safety lap here around in race lap number 2, and then lap 3 is the race where we'll start getting it underway. In fact, it'd be lap 2, wouldn't it? Obviously, I'm counting the out lap as a lap, but that was wrong.
Yeah, the drivers will be able to take this pace lap just that little bit quicker than what the iRacing pace car does take you, so it won't take as long as and as much time out of the race as a normal pace car lap would. Obviously, in this series also, we don't have the safety car. It won't be called out in the middle of a race for a big instance, so it will be down to the drivers to keep it as clean as possible. As you can see, Thomas Cope now building the speed round towards the end of the lap, and then I'm predicting he will back the pack up. There is Max Wolf, the Dutch driver, taking it to the pro drivers so far, and we're just flicking through the grid, and there is that Ford GT just in front of Jacob Behrens, and what a sight it is to be up in 9th place as well. So a great job there by Jacob to put the IGL Coatings Esports Ford GT straight up there.
Yeah, it certainly is, and a very good call there. I mean, you can see the cars getting all in single file. to limit the amount of incidents when they actually do start racing at the end of this lap. So you can see there Thomas Cope just backing it up slightly, getting everybody in a big log line, which gives maximum amount of tire heating and brake, and obviously just backs the field up, so the front end not that far away. You can see him there doing around about 100 k's an hour, which is slightly faster. So it'll be under with Thomas to get us underway for the first of two 30-minute races here tonight, as he comes around the penultimate corner here, ready to get on to the start finish to try and make that leap over Hellier there in second place. Nikolai 3 there in third place, just watching what happens with Christensen just getting alongside him. So it's just backing it up. We will see the speed just shoot up from Thomas Cope as he's just about to come around the line, and we are racing, and you can see there the immediate influx of speed. Thomas Cope gets a really good run. Nikolai Frayne takes a bit of a leap on the inside there into turn 1. Hellier just slightly wide, should get the faster speed on the exit, as we can see in there, manages to recuperate that second place over Nikolai Frayne. But an excellent start there from Thomas Cope. In the Pro-Am category, we've got Max Wolf there, currently in 5th place overall, so very much mixing it with the pros, only half a second behind the leader, but certainly leading out that class, and Hooper just behind him, so extremely close on track as we go through the inner loop for the very first time. Are all the drivers going to get it through? They're all in a nice single file, so they've got the best opportunity to be able to do. Elliot Hellier is sort of lost out to Nikolai Frayne again, so Frayne really trying to close that gap. Cope at the moment 1 second lead over Frayne, obviously fighting very hard with Hellier there in third place. So trying to scamper away at the start of this race, letting the tail markers in second and third fight it out to be able to get that lead. But certainly a great start. We can see there the top AM driver in 11, Plev Molkiev, in there doing a cracking job in the AM class, very much mixing it up with Chris Rance there in 16th place, second in there. Like we said on the points as well, guys, it's not where they finish overall, it's just where they finish in class, and the difference between first and second is only 2-point difference, and then it's 1 point down from that. But we coming to the end of the first actual racing lap, and you can see that the cars are still extremely close together, really close racing out on track, as we're currently on board with Simeon Mildev, the top amateur driver, as we end the first official racing lap.
Yeah, quite a clean opening lap as well. I know we had the extra warm-up lap, but it worked really well for everybody, and we've got drivers moving up and down the field, but the top 5 or 6 stayed about the same. Here we go for a replay of what happened to Dan Fendick. It's going down into the toe of the boot by the looks of it. And McLaren on the outside, and it's just almost pod to pod, as we call it, and the two just spin round, and luckily nobody else is collected, so it is just a rejoin for both of the drivers, and relatively little damage from that incident, because it will just be side to side contact. As we now look at Casper Tunstall, who showed a lot of pace in practice in the test events we did in the week before we came to this event, and just was a little unlucky with some of the races. But not far ahead of him is Borkland, who actually was absolutely flying as a pro-am yesterday, I think it was, and the decision has been taken to make him a pro driver for this season.
It certainly has, and I think it's a completely different. They only had 16 cars on the grid yesterday for the test session. They've had to deal with 55 cars on grid, so a completely different ball game than yesterday. You've really got to be aware of your spaces. If we look further down here, Mattia there in 30th place overall. I think he is, it's probably 4th or 5th in class at the moment. Our top rookie at the moment is Hansen, who is currently down in 44th position, so he has the top spot for the rookie class. You can see there Jameson Smith in 46th position, and then we'll have quite a few of the other rookie drivers behind there. We have added to help out a lot of the other drivers. You can see on the back of that Ferrari there, 2 little chevrons on the outside edge of the rear bumper, just to highlight to the rest of the field that they are rookie drivers, to be a little bit kinder, I would say, to them when they're trying to make aggressive overtaking maneuvers. So you see here Morton Hansen there, top of your rookie class in 45th at the moment, and we might see quite a few of them just letting the faster cars through, because they're not fighting them for position. They are just there to be able to just let them get on with the race. You're fighting in your own class, so therefore just let the other faster drivers go through. Hock up onto the back of them. We'll also see Morton Hansen take it extremely wrong on the inner loop, and we've got a Porsche there in the background spinning on the inner loop. I wasn't sure who that was. That looks like, I'm not sure who it was. I'm sure we're getting an instant replay here.
Yeah, it looks like it may have been Sander Ireland involved in this one in the 251. He's going up the inside in the Porsche. Oh, and it's lost control of the 224. So that would be Sander Ireland and the 224. We've got so many drivers. It is Hendrik Howardson getting involved in that. I think he may have just caught the grass on entry and just locked up, and that spun the two round. And we also saw just before that, with the Ferrari joining, Lydia Rose having to take avoiding action to not hit the back of Morton Hansen. There's a car off on the outside there as well. So we'll just see what happens here. Is Daniel Slater heading down to the inside, goes to BMW, and a very similar thing with them pod to pod. And Daniel Slater having to be really careful to rejoin there in the BMW, allowing all the drivers to get through first, using his relative well to not disturb anybody else's race.
Yeah, it definitely is. Starting to get a little few incidents now. We're getting back to the racing, but it's been relatively clean. Certainly that second lap with the first official racing, I was expecting quite a few big incidents, but we haven't really had them, and it's a tribute to the drivers and obviously the organisations to be able to do that extra start-up lap to warm these tyres up, and enables the cars to do a lot of racing, as we currently got Ovid Bredvik there coming over the line, and Daniel Slater in 52nd. We just saw him have that incident there coming down into the heel, here around turn number 8. So very easily to do. Very seemed like he came down the inside like a bullet, and unfortunately his car just slid out slightly wide. As we've got another replay here. Max Wolf, our top Pro-Am driver, what happened to him? Oh, look at a bit of a carnage here. Oh no, there's 1, 2, 3 cars there getting it slightly wrong, coming up through the toe. Oh, as we see Max Wolf just trying to
rejoin at the same time. Yeah.
Oh,
I do think that happened because a Mercedes lost control just in front. One of the Mercedes did, and it just sort of took their eyes off the prize at the time. And then three Porsches side by side does not go in one corner. So that is disappointment for all three of them drivers, because they're all running well inside the top 10. But it does give a gift of a position to Jacob Behrens, who now is 5th in that Ford GT. And we said we wanted to see it near the front, and Jacob is doing a great job in it so far. But out in front, Thomas Cope leads by 4.2 seconds after 10 minutes. It's a great start by Thomas Cope, who we've seen win championships before for Olympus Esports. I remember him winning a championship before with a broken foot. He actually drove quicker with a broken foot, so near the end of the season. So it shows the skills that Thomas Cope has, and he's putting them fully to use, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner. But it's not over yet. About 10 minutes of this half an hour race to go. Gone, sorry, and it's only 4.2 seconds.
Yeah, it definitely is. 4.2 seconds is probably quite a lot in this track. For Hellier there in second place, he is very much fighting with Thrain. You can see Thrain in the timing tower currently down in P10th, so very much must have had an incident earlier on, but Hellier's managed to get away. So those two at the moment are starting to stretch the field. Christensen there in third, 1.6 seconds behind Hellier, so Hellier's got a bit of free air to be able to try and close that gap to Thomas Cole. But with the size of this field, you know, it won't be too much longer before Cope comes on to the back end of the field to all the rookies, and that's where the spice may be starting to happen, to see how the front runners are able to get around the back markers around this track. Can we put the track mark up, Lewis, and just see how close Thomas Cope is to get into the back of that grid? So you can still see it's about half a lap, so I reckon towards the tail end of this 30-minute race he'll be attaching himself to the back end of the field, but all relatively still close together there, Dave. I mean, you can see there 36 to 37, a big gap out on track, but from sort of third all the way down to 36, they're still relatively close out on track.
Yes, really close after the 10 minutes, and relatively not many incidents, as we're now looking at Rich Jamieson Smith, who I believe is leading our rookie category in the Porsche 382, setting decent lap times at a 47.1. He's not far ahead, he's just ahead, sorry, of Tom Bingham, because we have just seen Trez Sider spinning off at turn 1. I think he was heading for a pit exit as we went through that view, but it is Jamieson Smith looking at the back of Rosa as they head up towards the chicane. But here we go, this is Chris Rance in the 213 up the inside of the two Porsches. He's going to have to run wide and then loses it on the curb, luckily not taking anyone else. Rejoins, luckily didn't bounce out into the track, and that part of the circuit is good enough to allow the cars to be able to keep the speed up around the outside.
Yeah, it's lucky he actually spun around the right way. If he was round facing the oncoming traffic, it might have been a completely different story. We're back on board with our top rookie driver at the moment, Rich Jamieson Smith there, and our top of the AM, Simeon Milodev, in 15th place overall. So doing well. And this is, I suppose this is the beauty of this format as well, is we saw Max Wolf getting it up in 5th place overall, mixing it very much with the pros. Caleb Cropper, because he was fighting very much with the pros, and Lodgson there in 8th place at the moment, who is currently leading the Pro-Am, was given a gift. So it's that conundrum: do you fight with the pros, or do you just let them pass, hook up onto the back of them and just follow them along? Because Max was certainly had the pace, but unfortunately came with that incident coming through the toe as we ride on board with James Lodgson, currently in 8th place. And you can see 7th and 6th in front of him are not that far, including 5th as well. You can see the Porsche, the Ford there, just in the front of this group. So doing an excellent job there is Lawson. He's got a 1.4 second over his nearest rival, Hooper, in 9th place behind him. So we'll do well to just latch on to the back of these pro drivers in front of him to try and keep that gap out in front, and just let the front three in front of him that you can see now battle it out on there, just making sure that he can maintain his speed. So at the moment, I think James has got the tactic pretty much nailed down. You can see his teammate there just in the background, Hooper, so that this team will be doing exceptionally well. And obviously there is a team championship at on the cards for these drivers as well, and it's another tactical thing to say that if you have one of each different class in each of your team, you've got more chance of getting the top points rather than having all the team in one class. So I think we've seen a lot of the teams trying to split up their drivers in the relative class to give them the maximum chance of winning that team. But we're looking at Jacob Behrens going a little bit defensive here over Pal in 2nd place. We all know that Porsche isn't probably the quickest car, but in the hands of Behrens, I would never write him off. We did see him last season. He actually came out on track. He was extraordinary. As we see an instant coming up this, and this is absolutely terrible. It's looking like it might. Oh no, it's blocked off the track there. 8 cars involved in there, as we say. 104 just backing into one of the Performance Links cars, and we just see this cascading effort. Unfortunately, will be going back to the pits, and yeah, that was a pretty big incident. Still ongoing in the rear. We can see there one of the Evo SR teams just getting spun around. That's Kevin Copeland getting caught up in that issue. And that's how quickly this race, certainly coming up through their messes, can catch drivers out. And a lot of them would have been innocent bystanders, because you're at full throttle coming up through that S's. And if there's an incident at the top, you're literally doing like a Days of Thunder, just trying to find that little gap, and unfortunately a few of the drivers got caught up in it. And you can see there Michael Hoopler, who was running 2nd in that Pro-Am category with a very damaged Porsche.
Yeah, we also lost James Logston, who was leading the Pro-Am category. We lost Simeon Motlkev, who was leading the Am category. So a huge understanding that this does not help things. Here's Jacob Behrens Oh, and he lost had the contact, lost control, and then he was just a sitting duck. And that is the thing we've warned about with this area of the circuit. Here's Max Wolf on the same replay, just trying to get through it all. Luckily, most of it seems to have cleared by the time he gets there, and most of the drivers have jumped to the pits. But it is just what we tried to avoid on the first lap. But it's happened a little bit later on. I'm looking at other drivers that are heading to pit lane now. So actually, Thomas Cope now leads with a 2.1 second lead. So I'm not sure if he had to back off for some of that chaos at some point. Elliott is just 2 seconds behind. Christensen, Wills in 4th, Yomantis in 5th, Powell 6th, and then Stevens is now leading our Pro-Am category. It is Tom Stevens for Evo SR Black in the 189. He leads the way. You can see his what must be his go-karting picture on the bottom. I very much approve of that suit because I had the same one when I was karting. Russ Fowler up into second place in the class, taking it easy in that Mercedes and moving his way through for Performance Link Esports. And in 12th place overall, up 15 positions so far, is Haug, who's now the amateur leader in this race. Gordon Haug from Norway has moved his way up nicely, but you can still see how close this pack of racing is. The biggest mover I can see is Regan just ahead of him, up 21 places. Sorry, no, Chambers up 34. He did start from the pit lane though, so this is giving him a huge advantage in terms of missing all of that chaos.
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, that's the thing when you're at the front of the grid, it's so easy. Oh, as we see another incident here to pretty much stop the track. Matty Chambers up so many places, and they're just getting caught up behind. And you can see one of the RGL Coatings Mercedes cars just stranded along the track. Let's just have a look at what happened here. Looking from Carl Gray coming up towards turn number 9. Here around, he just spins out, get it across the track, and unfortunately, he had nowhere to go. Unfortunately there, Carl, he was just stranded across the racing line. Again, another blind corner to come round, and that was an unfortunate death. But this is really paying into quite a few other drivers' names. I mean, the lead in that Pro-Am category has changed so many times. We've currently got Tom Stevens heading out, Russ Fowler in 2nd, and Phil Regan in 3rd in class there in 10th place. But at the start of this race, they were well down the field, so lost some of the front runners at the start of this 30-minute race. The drivers do have a fast repair at their hand, but obviously if you take that elusive tow back to pits, you're probably looking at near enough being a lap down. So a lot of the drivers, after a few incidents that a lot were bystanders in, is a bit unfortunate. But I suppose that's one of the big things about this track, is the fact that there are then blind corners when you come round, and you've literally got to have your wits about you when racing. But currently on board with Max Wolf, currently in 4th in class, so that earlier incident we saw him getting caught up in has managed to recover it. That Porsche's certainly seen better days, but is still able to manage to keep going. So there's Max Wolf in 13th overall in that Evo SR, but 3rd in class. And this is a beauty of them point system for the classes. You can have an incident, but still manage within the time frame to fight your way back up, and he will still be getting some decent points for finishing in 4th place overall in class.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom Stevens, as we say, leading the way in the Porsche for the Pro-Am categories, up 19 places, only about 6 seconds off the lead 6, who are the All-Pro category. And he has Russ Fowler not far behind, stalking him. But these drivers will just want to score good points to start this season. Our rookie leader is, if I can scroll down the timer screen, where have we got?
Rich Jameson Smith in P23rd at the moment.
Oh,
so he's up 30 places from where he started, and sometimes being the slow one wins races because you keep your nose clean, as we can see here from Rich Jameson Smith. I mean, what was his average lap time? It's about 1:45.3. the top teams are doing, or the top drivers are doing 142, so 3 seconds slower, but still managing to be in the top half of the grid in P23rd is our rookie driver. So Rich Jamieson-Smith having a cracking round, and he's got a bit of free air in front and behind him as well, as we see a stricken Audi there coming around the outer loop. He's certainly had an issue there, and who might that have been? Nathan Healy, maybe? Yes, it was Nathan Healy, so we'll have a look at what happened to him coming into the inner loop. Does he get it bent out of shape going in? Yes, he does. I mean, that's a classic way of taking that corner a little bit too sharp. There's a real kicker on that real inside of that curb. You do take that, and you'll see the drivers taking that racing line, but if you take it a little bit too much, you'll see there exactly what Nathan done. Literally got the car unbalanced, and he spit himself off into the wall. So a classic mistake on that inner loop beside there. But Rich Jamieson-Smith doing a cracking job topping out of the rookies. And in fact, the rookies overall have really put on a good show. I mean, we've got second place in 27th. And 28th is Jacob Simiski and Paul Joseph Klist, who are second and third in that rookie class. So plenty of AMs, Pro-Ams, and even Pro drivers are behind this. But we're looking at John Tressida at the moment in 34th position, probably round about, so about 7th or 8th in class. So doing a great job. But there's this Paul Joseph Klist currently in 28th place and in 3rd place overall in the rookies. As we watch Paul coming up here through the S's, as we move to Nikolai Gronstrom in 31st, having a real good battle with our only female driver on there, Rossa. Lydia Rossa in 30th. Gronstrom trying to look down the outside. Lydia just making the defensive line coming up into the inner loop, so should be able to keep that position, but no, decides to back out, which is probably actually a brave decision to make. Just hook up onto the back end of Gronstrom's car to pull her along, but she's doing very well there in 31st position. I'm just having a look where that is.
8th in class.
8th in class. So doing a cracking job on a first outing. Normally I think an admin in one of the Norwegian leagues, so deciding to see what the other side is like and actually getting on the field. So good for her, as we join Odvin Bredvik in 28th position at the moment, and is in 6th place overall in the AM class.
Yeah, it's close between all of the drivers at the moment. As you can see, there's quite a few AM drivers together, quite a few Pro-Am battling each other. So it's really close between everybody. I don't know if we've missed him, but Thomas Cope is not leading this race now. Not according to my timing screen.
No,
Helia has took the lead. So something has happened to Thomas Cope. We knew Helia was closing in, but that is news to us. Thomas Cope not had a slow lap time in there, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there.
He did on his last lap. It was a 144.4, so looks like he might have had a slight incident. Is that some damage on his rear left?
It does look like a bit.
Looks like a little bit of damage, but that lead that he had at the start, the 4 seconds, Helia has managed to close that down, and Cope finds himself in 2nd place, 1.1 seconds behind. Christiansen, literally country mile off at the moment, 12 seconds. So let's have a look here and see if we can find out what happened. So this will be the passing move coming on the inner loop. Oh, Thomas Cope got it completely wrong coming on the inner loop. Managed to save his car, but obviously that's where the position was given over to Elliot Halia, who currently now leads this race over Thomas Cope. So Thomas has got it all to do again after a very strong lead. But 2nd place is still not bad enough to be sniffed at. We have just under 5 minutes here of this first race, and this is not just all the action we've got. We've got another 30-minute race coming up after this one, so you know, have a breather in the 5-minute break. Oh, as we see Elliot there getting it sliding, so he's literally going to give it back here. Thomas Cope didn't seem to be able to capitalise, so maybe Thomas Cope had a slight issue, but certainly the tyres are getting a little bit worn on this Porsche.
Yeah, this is a great battle between the two, who are 13 seconds clear of any other drivers. And Yeah, it's really, really a close battle between these two. Christensen in third ahead of Yomantis. He's out by himself at the moment. Then Powell is not far behind Yomantis, so that's a battle there. Stevens continues to lead Pro-Am as we go into the last 4 minutes of this race, whereas Rance leads the Am category. And I think if we can, is it possible to have the splits up on the timing screen, Lewis, and then we can show everybody how it's looking in each of the classes?
Currently on board with Chris Rance, so we can see there in the Pro, Helia is leading, Cope in second, Christian in third place, Yomantis in fourth, Powell in fifth. In the Pro-Ams we've got Stevens, Fowler, Regan, Wolf after that excellent start, and that slight incident is still there in fourth place with Vark in fifth. In the Am class we got Chris Rance in first place, Pierce, Sire, Haig, Doherty, Breivik, Gormstrom and Ross are there in 8th place. In the rookie class we got Jameson Smith doing an extra job, 11 seconds ahead of Szymanski in 2nd place. Clist only 1.3 seconds behind Szymanski, so that could be something towards the end of this race. Rhodes in 5th. And then we've got Hansen and Fendick there just a lap down, but if they can still stay within 3 laps of the driver, they will still score some very valuable points out on there. So quite close battling between the Pro-Ams there, 2 seconds between Stevens and Fowler, so there's a good opportunity there. Cope losing a little bit more time now, 3.8 seconds, so the tyres must be scrubbed on Thomas Cope's Porsche. In the rookie class, Jamieson Smith really being dominant in this first race, 11 seconds ahead of Szymanski. Joseph Clist is probably the closest on that to Szymanski in 2nd place, only 1.3 seconds behind, so really good end. I mean, I think it's been an excellent opening round for the championship, Dave. You know, literally with that extra lap, I think that has saved a lot of big incidents. We have seen a few big, but you know, that is all part of racing. You are going to get a few incidents out of the track, but I think overall it's been a complete success from the fact that we've had the majority of the field being able to finish this race.
Yeah, it's been a really close opening race, even though we did have the big one, which we did expect. And we got Porsche off just ahead of Szymanski there. I'm not sure who that is, a 276. So that will be as Szymanski makes his way through. However, I have seen driving numerous different championships over iRacing. Just having a look now. It was Rich Jamieson Smith putting his was it? No? I'm just having a look on the timing screen now. Who was it who ran wide? Sorry, Nicholas.
Breivik. It's Otto Breivik in there.
Oh, Breivik, sorry.
Yeah, it was a Breivik car that was the car be in front of Szymanski for going around that outer loop. But looking at him there in his black Porsche, the classic black colour there. Decided not to have a livery on and just going pure black as we watch Elliot Hillier. He's still out in first and stretching that lead over Thomas Cope. I think Thomas Cope has probably given up the ghost a little bit. You can see him losing time. 2nd place is only going to be 2 points behind Hillier and will be back up. As we said, that 2nd race, the top 8 will be inverted overall. So we can see there that we will have, if it stays as it is at the moment, Russ Fowler will be on the front row of the grid for the Pro-Am in first. And Fowler's there in first. Who was it? I think it was Stevens who was leading that Pro-Am field. So something has happened to Stevens. Had a slight incident there, and he's now down to 2nd in class. So a little bit of late incidences going on in the series, as you see that battered Ford there of Jacob. It's pretty much battered that front end of that force, but Russ Fowler there doing a cracking job, currently in the P7th overall, but certainly leading that Pro-Am. As you see on the top of the screen, you've got Chris Rance in the AMs and Jamieson Smith in the top of the rookies. So great first race for them guys as we come to the last lap, I believe, of this race. Not sure where Hellier is out on track as we look at Harry Wells currently in 8th. But you see there Elliott coming around the outer loop, halfway round his last lap here in the first race to take the first victory in the brand new season of the Performance Link GT3 Cup. Still got another 30-minute race ahead of us, so it's going to be interesting to see what Elliott and Thomas Cope can do, because pretty much they've been the class act in this field so far here tonight.
Yeah, it's been super close as they come round onto his final lap. We did think Thomas Cope was going to walk away with it, but he's now 5 seconds behind Hellier, so that damage really isn't helping Thomas Cope from his little trip across the grass. But Elliot Hellier's kept the pressure on, kept his nose clean as he comes through to pass some more back markers, but he will take the... I'll let him get through the final 2 corners because we do not want to jinx him, but the Performance Link GT3 Club has had its first race, and it has now got its first winner of Elliot Hellier, who's going to take the win in the Porsche as he crosses the line now ahead of Thomas Cope, who will come along 4 seconds behind. And the next up in the Pro category should be Oscar Christensen. Yes, it is, and he's going to just fight off a back marker at the moment, because 8 seconds behind is Mantis trying to fight off the attentions of Powell. He actually has both Powells up behind him at some point, but it is a great start to the season for Aaron Powell to come home in 5th. The Americans done really well there, and Dean Powell coming home. Oh, is he coming home?
Maybe not. Oh, can he still keep that? He does have... oh, he doesn't want to go into that pit. And
yeah,
now he goes down, loses another position. Does he? Oh, he's just lost 2 positions in class there from a slight incident. I think he might have commentated Kirsten there coming around that last bit.
That is definitely the first one of the season. Powell falling to 14th, losing about 2 or 3 spots in class. Here's Ludwig coming across the line, and Tom Bingham not too far behind, who will come across the line to win the rookie class. I think it will be Jameson Smith, who is just coming through the final corner now, and Rich Jameson Smith takes the first win in the rookie class ahead of Shimowski and Klist, as long as those 2 make it round the final corner.
Yeah, it definitely is a great race there, and congratulations to our winners. We still have drivers out on track at the moment as we just watch the tail enders coming back over the line. We saw Klist there and Scorette coming over in 28th overall. But I mean, it's been a great race for the first round. I mean, it was really good that we had that single file to be able to warm the tyres up and get everyone in a better position to tackle that infamous first sector of turn number 1 and the S's in the inner loop. But then when the pin was well and truly pulled, we did have a few more incidents out there. But we can take you through the results here. So Elliot Hellier wins the first round of the Performance Link GT3 Cup over Thomas Cope in 2nd place, Oscar Christensen in 3rd, Arias Germantis in 4th, Aaron Powell in 5th. Our top Pro-Am driver, Russ Fowler, in 6th, Tom Stevenson coming home in 7th. 8th was Harry Wills. 9th was Phil Regan. 10th, Chris Rance, our top AM driver. 11th was Max Wolf. Matty Chambers in 12th. In 13th, our 2nd place AM driver, Steve Pierce. And the unfortunate Dave, commentator Stephen Powell there in 14th place. In 15th, we got Gordon Haig. 16th, Matt Sawyer. Jimmy Vark in 17th place with Danny Lilivek in 18th. In 19th, we have Tom Bing. In 10th, we got Dan Merchant. In 21st, we got Scott Mokes. In 22nd, Darren Doherty. And 23rd, a cracking race for Rich Jameson Smith, our top rookie driver there in 23rd position. In 24th, we got Nicholas Gronson. 25th, Ovid Bradvik. In 26th, Jacob Semensky. 27th, Paul Joseph Klist. 28th, Alexander Scorette. In 29th, we got Lydia Rose, great effort there. In 30th, John Chessiter. 31st, Daniel Slater. In 32nd, Michael Hooper. 33rd, Matthew Gerard. 34th, Frederick Goodberg. In 35th, Dean Sims. 36th, Hendrik Haraldson. 37th, Kevin Copeland. And 38th, Kin Andre Borkland. 1 lap down these drivers are. In 39th, we have Matt Loveridge. In 40th, Bob Humphrey. In 41st, Simeon Mildov. In 42nd, James Lonsdon. 43rd, Casper Tungsten. 44th, Hanken Johnson. In 45th, Alexander Rhodes. 46th, Vinderland. 47th, Joe Sal. 48th, Jacob Behrens. 2 laps down these drivers are now. Patrick Thompson in 49th in 50 Sander Island. And then we have 8 laps down Nathan Healy, 9 laps Nikolai Thrain and Carl Gray, Morton Hansen and Dan Fabric 10 and 11 laps down. So only a few major casualties there, Dave, from probably 51st place down in a 55 grid is actually not a bad effort overall to be able to do. So what we've got now is the drivers will have a 5-minute break just to regather their thoughts for this second 30-minute race. Like I said, the top 8 will be inverted, but it gives us a good opportunity to thank our sponsors for this series. Our title sponsor, Performance Links, are suppliers of 100 of different automotive tuning brands focused predominantly on the Japanese market. They offer a wide range of upgrades such as suspension, engine components, braking and much more. They're also proud sponsors of multiple MX-5 race cars and specialize in the MX-5 Mark III for both fast road and track use. So contact them at sales@performancelink.direct for more information. Our second sponsor is Green Future Technology, a consultant specialist in IT sustainability and helping business transform the way they procure, operate, and consume IT services. So whenever you're an IT professional involved in IT procurement, work in sustainability, or just interested in what actions you can take to be more sustainable, they can help. So go over to the website at greenfuturetechs.com for more information. And our last sponsor, last but not least, is TC Cinematography. 4K and Ultra HD images delivered to your Dropbox. You can create the scene and they'll get the snap. Tell them the story through high quality photographs. Places to find him are olympusport.com. Discord is Thomas Cope #4241, or on Instagram at TC Cinematography. So Thomas is kindly doing all the pictures for our session. But Dave, what a cracking first race. I think you're on mute there, Dave. Classic commentator mistake.
Well, you know, I jinxed somebody in the final corner, so I may as well jinx myself. But yeah, no, we had a great race. We had the big crash we expected, you know, but not at the point we expected. We had some great battles. Most of the cars finished, which is always a concern when you've got a grid of this size. And we had battles throughout. I mean, the Pro-Am lead, I think we had about 6 different leaders in that race. The Pro category changed hands in terms of the lead, even though Thomas Cope had that brilliant start to the race. Rookies changed hands. Amateurs changed hands. So it had a bit of everything. And this Watkins Glen circuit is going to serve up yet another 30 minutes of it. And like you said before with the results, the inverted top 8 allowing the Pro-Ams to move up there into the top end of the grid. As we now look at that on the screen, we have Harry Wills, the Pro driver, on pole position from Tom Stevens, Russ Fowler in 3rd and Aaron Powell in 4th, Irish John Mattis in 5th, Oscar Christensen in 6th, Thomas Cope will start 7th ahead of our race 1 winner Elliot Hellier. Phil Reagan will be in 9th with Chris Rance, a top AMCAT driver, in 10th place, a brilliant result for him. Max Wolf in 11th and Matty Chambers in 12th.
We won't go through the rest of the field. We'll let it come on screen. But it's going to be interesting there. Thomas Cope, probably one of the favourites in this championship, had a really good start at the beginning of the first race. Made a little mistake and Hellier just capitalised on it. He was around about 5 seconds behind. So those two drivers certainly were the class of month on the first race. So it's really going to be interesting to see what them two. We can see there we've got Russ Fowler on the second row of the grid here as they go out for the warm-up race or the warm-up laps here. It's certainly going to be interesting what happens overall, but they just go out, just do their warm-up, get their tyres warmed up, and then we're back into another 30-minute race here. And going to be an interesting, like you were saying, Dave, you know, the amount of times the class and the fields all changed around, you know, really pays into the strategy. What do you do if you're surrounded by a class of a different a car with a different classes around you? Do you let them all through? Do you try and fight? I think that's just an added depth that we've got in this league, in this 12 rounds coming up.
Yeah, and we've got it inside each class as well. For example, we've got Hay Wills on pole, Aaron Powell fourth, Yamatis and Christensen rounding out the third row of the grid. They know that Thomas Cope and Elliot Elliott ran away a little bit at the start of the last race. So you have the choice. Do you start fighting them early on when they're trying to come through and bulk that progress so you're in the fight as early as possible? Or do you go, maybe I haven't got the pace today, and we'll just go for that third place and sort of not lose as much time as possible with them, as we can see the cars heading up towards the chicane for the first time. Nathan Healy is on the screen at the moment. There's Hakon Jorgensen in the Lamborghini, a car which we haven't seen a huge amount of here tonight so far, but it is out there on the field. And there is Alex Rhodes in the McLaren. So we've got a huge amount of cars out there, different types, different makes, and that's going to make for just for some great racing, really.
Yeah, I think we've actually got at least one of every GT3 car on the field, which I've not seen very often, but just having a look over our YouTube chat, so a big shout out to all the people that are watching us live here on the Performance Link channel. Big thumbs up to you from us, the commentators. And also, if you like the broadcast, give us a thumbs up. Think about subscribing us with that bell. Click that bell, and you'll get all the times we go live. Like Dave said at the start, we've got like a sort of mini podcast going to be going on a Wednesday to discuss this race, look at the penalties, get a driver in for an interview. But thanks for everybody joining us. I mean, Olaf Bakken, very entertainment. I almost forgot that I was just watching sim racing, not real life racing. Good first race of my friend Haig. Keep up the great style. So, you know, it's really ultra realistic now, the way that iRacing have got, and people do get immersed, even though it is in fact a sim. It could almost be real life with the camera angles and the shots that we get, and obviously the commentating that goes over the top of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you've also got to think about the driver's side of things. You know, they put in a lot of effort for the practice here. I'm a driver which, you know, we have things like Petit Le Mans and the special events, and my team will be shouting at me going, practice, practice, practice. I'm one who, if I do too much practice, it's a detriment to myself because, well, that's my excuse anyway. I actually lose the rhythm that I would have, as we're now going to do a similar start to last time, it looks like, so I will go for another lap. But a lot of these drivers will put a huge amount of effort into learning the style of the car, getting to know it, literally making it part of... most drivers say they'll make it part of their own skin, so they know every inch of it, what it will do in different corners, and that's the difference between being a pro driver and maybe a rookie driver or things like that. So it's really interesting to see. And we have drivers from many different sort of realms of iRacing. So we have Thomas Cope, who we see many times in the GT Championships around. We have Jakub Szymowski. Is it Jakub Szymowski? I just want to make sure I've got the right person. Like Jacob Owens, we see a lot in the GT Championships as well. It's Jakub Szymowski. I've seen him very much a lot of times in the Chaz Draycott series, and he does things like single seaters, GTs, touring cars, and Jakub is there quite often. So it's a large spread of drivers who do different things on iRacing as well. So they will all be learning in this GT Championship, whether it's to deal with drivers who aren't quite used to the cars, or actually just learn how to drive these cars quicker.
Yeah, it definitely is. And obviously another thing for the immersion, as our producer kindly told me, is that we are broadcasting it in 4K, so crystal clear pictures. So if you've got it on a massive screen at home, I bet it's look like real life racing anyway, because I'm just watching the broadcast as we're commentating, and it just looks absolutely amazing. But like you said, you know, the great thing with these sim races is it gives an opportunity for guys that would never have the experience to try and do a bit of real life racing. It gives them that almost free effect to get on. It costs a lot of money to get set up, or it doesn't have to, you know. But but it gives people the opportunity here as we watch Harry Wills just backing up the field here for the start of this second 30-minute race. We saw in the first race it was pretty clean on the first lap. It normally goes haywire on the second lap because everyone sort of gets their muscles out and just really starts going on being the last race of the season. So we'll see what's in store with us for the next 30 minutes. We can see a brilliant aerial shot there of literally how large this grid is. 55 cars out on track here for the first round. 62 drivers have signed up. We are just about to get underway for race number 2, all under the control of Harry Wills as he approaches the start-finish line, and he'll literally put the hammer down, and there we see he literally puts the hammer down, gets a little bit of a jump there over Tom Stevens in second place, but all relatively close. Russ Fowler still managing to keep third place. Then he has a big train of pros behind him. We've got Powell, Yamantas, Christensen, Cope, Hellier, Powell, Chambers, and then we got our top AM driver Chris Rance as they come up through the S's for the first time on that sort of mini back straight you would see coming up into the inner loop. So the pros really starting to bail out as we see there. Russ Fowler just getting sort of caught up with it, probably in two minds of what to do here. I mean, he's far enough ahead of his next competitor in his class, Max Wolf, in 12th place there. So he probably will not fight these pros that much, but these pros are certainly wanting to get past each other to get their maximum point as we ride on board with Hellier there, our race 1 winner. Not made up any positions. Still in 8th place, Thomas Cope in front of him, taking a little bit wide there, coming around the toe as we come down towards finishing the first competitive race lap here in race number 2. Wills still managing to hold that lead, 1.6 seconds ahead of Stevens. So the other pros behind really need to try and get back past these two Pro-Am drivers in second and third, because Wills has an opportunity here, as you can see him there in the distance, getting a little bit of a gap. So these two Pro-Am drivers may be slowing the Pro drivers, but Wills at the front of this field has got a classic opportunity. As you can see there, the timing up to 2 seconds here at the end of the first lap. So Harry Wills, an excellent lap, a 144.73, and we can see there the rest of the field in 146. So him being out in front has been able to maximize that lead, as we see Powell just managing to get past Russ Fowler there for third place. Still has another Pro-Am driver, Stevens, in front of him, but really putting paid these Pro-Am drivers at the moment, Dave.
Yeah, it certainly is, as Thomas Cope now has a look at the back of Russ Fowler and will have Aaron Powell just ahead of him. He tries to follow Aaron Powell to push him past Russ Fowler, but Russ Fowler will slot in between. That's a sensible way to do it between the drivers, and Thomas Cope will take his time to try and get through here because he does know he has the pace here today. It was a very clever start by Harry Wills, took it all the way to the line so that it wasn't going to be drafted up until turn 1, but the pack behind didn't quite realise that was going to happen, and they're 3 or 4 wide up the start as we now look at Alex Rhodes in the McLaren. Fire spearing, that was not the best of rejoins by the Mercedes. Spun the McLaren around and then took another driver with him. I'm not sure who that...
I think that was Lydia Rossa there. That was obviously that pink Mercedes that came back onto the track and unfortunately clipped that McLaren coming around. It's easy to do round turn number 1 because there's no official off-track round turn 1. You can go super wide. As we see a big incident in the background there. Some of the pros, who's in that? That's Pierce involved in there. Our top AM driver, as we look at a instant replay on board with Scott Mopes coming up to turn number 8. Is it another car stranded in the middle of the track? Yes, it is, and literally it just funnels cars off into the barriers. As we see there, who is that? I think that is the Porsche 271 there, just not holding his brakes and giving the opportunity, and you can see the effect that it does have on the field as it almost car parks it. Oh no, it's all going slightly wrong towards the back end of the field here, and Scott Mopes is not having the best of days. I think he got pretty much taken out into in the first race, and the second race is that Ford is crabbing pretty bad.
Yeah, not the ideal way for it all to happen, but yeah, it happens at times, and you've got to be able to hold your brakes if you're involved in an accident like that.
You certainly do, but we join up with Thomas Cope, who's managed to get himself up to 4th place, starting 7th on the grid. Our 2nd place driver in there was, it looks like we do have another incident. Hancock Johnson, coming to the inner loop. Just does he get tackled?
I'm not sure.
A bit of nut code, maybe.
Yeah, and
lost it. It goes on his roof for good measures.
A little bit of an extreme roll there for the Lamborghini after a slight touch with a barrier, but yeah, it was Gordon Haugen, the 271 Porsche. We've got the 64. That's Thomas Cope. That's Thomas Cope. Spun round on the rejoin to the main circuit. He's gone up the inside and backed out of it, and just had, by the looks, that looks like it may be netcode, and then pushed from behind as well. But that has put probably one of the championship expected contenders right down the field. He's having to take his time to rejoin, as you can see, and Thomas Cope will not be happy with that. He sort of had his nose chopped off, had to back out of it. And that's a Mercedes in the wall, and it's such a difficult place to get turned around.
It is if you're facing the wrong way, and unfortunately from the front end of the field right back to the back is Thomas Cope. But like you said, he can still score some valuable points, so still needs to keep on going. Elliot Hellier there managing to profit from that, getting up to 3rd place. I think it was Stevens that was involved there with Thomas Cope, just trying to block off that inside. I'm not sure why Matty Chambers, it wasn't Matty Chambers, sorry, it was Tom Stevens, I think was the car that was involved in there, was maybe an unnecessary block there. I'm sure that might be one of the ones we look at on Wednesday. But looking at Matty Chalmers at the moment in P6 overall, he's managed to get up 6 places from where he started in this 2nd race. This mover on the field at the moment is Bob Humphrey in 12th place, up 28 positions from where he started. So really capitalising on a lot of incidents in front of him was Bob Humphrey from Team Evo SR. Not having the best of first races, but seems to be getting a bit of luck here in the 2nd in a lot of these incidents, pretty much around the blind bends as well. So you're a sitting duck if you come across an incident, so easily done around this track.
Yeah, very easily done. I'm just having a look in the lobby. It looks like Lily Rose may have had to reconnect to the lobby for some reason, so maybe a technical issue there. But here we look at Tom Bingham making a move on Vark down into turn 1. Lovely move by Tom Bingham, who will be wanting to move forward after not the best of race ones, but up to 16th place so far. Then Jimmy Vark now having a look back at the 185 of Tom Bingham. The two will be battling out for what I think is about 6th or 7th in class at the moment in time. So it's a close battle as he goes to the outside into the chicane. He will back off in the BMW, and it's going to put Pierce in a position to try and attack him, and Pierce goes up the inside of Vark, but Vark will hold on around the outside of here, I'm pretty sure of it, as the Porsche of Loveridge also comes and gets involved in this. So that shows you just how quickly things will back up if you do get a line wrong, and Loveridge being pretty much weighed through by Vark there, just to say, you're the pro driver, I'm not fighting you. And that's the first sort of example we've seen of a driver going, you're not in my class, I'm not interested in this battle.
Yeah, definitely was, and that was a classic thing, and I think Pierce there done an excellent job. He got out of the way of the faster drivers behind him, still not losing speed himself, but letting the faster drivers. So that was a perfect illustration of probably how to do it, because like we said, they're not fighting the cars necessarily in front or behind them, they are fighting the cars that are in their class. He's currently 2nd overall, as you can see there, so they're in 16th place, who's he's 3rd overall, sorry, Steve Pierce. Mad Sires in 2nd place, and Chris Rance in first place, up in 11th in that AM class. So down one place from where he started is Chris Rounds, but doing a cracking job. But currently watching Matt Loveridge, one of the other pro drivers, currently down in 17th place. I mean, it just shows you how quickly, like you said, Dave, you can get caught up in a few of these incidents. And if you get caught up behind a few of the slower drivers, you can lose pace from your class. So a lot of the pro drivers at the moment, towards the middle and the back end of the field, finding it exceptionally hard in this second race.
Yeah, certainly. And Chambers, as we're looking at, sitting fifth at the moment, looking at Christensen as we head to a replay. And this is Bob Humphrey coming down into the chicane in the Porsche. Bit hops over the curb, unsets the car, and what we've seen all night long, and a little nudge, just keeps it out of the barrier. Nicely done, Bob, and a nice way to rejoin as well. Didn't go straight out onto the track, just sort of pulled to the side out of the way, and I guess he will try and rejoin from there, hopefully into the race, but or jump to pits at least. So Chambers still applying the pressure to Christensen, and just ahead of this, 6 seconds up the road, Hellier. We missed this. He missed the Thomas Cope incident. He got through it. He was just behind that battle when Thomas Cope spun round, and now he's having a look at Aaron Powell. He moves up into second place, and we could be looking at a double winner here if Hellier can get that gap of 4.5 seconds down to Wills.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of deja vu from the first race. 4.5 seconds behind the leaders. Hellier there. Will's a different person in first, obviously. Thomas Cope was trying to keep him, was in front of Hellier, but obviously got caught up in an instant round turn number 9, so that's put real pay to his lap. But Hellier at the moment in second place does have Powell still for company, and he won't be an easy contender to shake off, but he needs to sort of bridge that gap to 1.5 seconds, so then he concentrates in front of him to try to erode into that 4.2 second leads that Harry Wills has had. I mean, he got a classic start, Harry Wills, at the start of the Pro, and he had the perfect scenario, having a couple of the slower classes right behind him to hold up the rest of the Pro field. But now they've managed to get past him, and now we're going to start chasing him down. So it's come down around about 0.2 of a second so far in this lap. So will Hellier be able to do it again and close that gap to take, like you said, another race winner? Yeah, double race winner. Possibly on the card for Elliott if he can do it. So you can see there, first place, Harry Wills in front of him, just going around the corner. So he's within striking distance. He can still see him on track. So it still has an opportunity. Just about reaching halfway in this second 30-minute race here, and it's been action-packed as we see on the track map. It's a lot more spread out with the incidents that we've had out on track in this second race. We saw a big, huge car pile. It is quite close from 4th all the way down to, say, 29th position, all relatively close out on track. But then you've got now the front there, you can see coming down the straight to the inner loop. Now going to be starting to come amongst some of the back markers, some of the AM drivers that possibly have incidents. So they could put pay to Harry Wills if they're not nice enough to get out the way. But Hellier at the moment really on a charge, bringing that lead down by 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, he's bringing that gap down slowly but surely. I think it's been about a second since we saw the move made, and I think we will certainly have a battle on. If Lewis could just put the splits up, and we can give you at the halfway point of this race who is leading the different classes and positions in each class, that would be great. There we go, we can see at the bottom of the screen that the gaps are sort of really narrowing down. 0.7 of a second on the last lap. Wills leads pro class. Max Wolf up in 6th overall, running in the lead of Pro-Am ahead of Stevens and Fowler. Rance leads AM category. He is just clear of Matt Surge and Pierce in that category. And Gerard leads the way in the rookie category, which obviously is another name which we didn't see at the front of the rookie category last in the first race. So that shows how open that category will be.
It certainly does. You've got Matthew Gerard there in 24th positions, up 9 places, heading out that rookie class. In second is Paul Joseph Clist, who is not that far behind. So it's a real battle on for the top honours in the Championship coming halfway in this. In third place, you got Jakub Szyminski in 34th place. Got a bit of a distance between him and that battle for first and second in the rookie class. But I'm just looking down the timing tower, and it just amazes me how much the pro field has been sort of smashed open. You've got the front 4 cars are pro. In fact, the front 5 now is Oscar Christensen, just managed to get past Max Wolf for that 5th position. But then you've got cars like in 7th, 10th, 14th and 15th, 21st, 23rd, and then down in 35th and 36th. I suppose that's one of the problems, isn't it, being in the pro class, because you're so ultra competitive. Any sort of slight incidents, you lose or you spin off, that almost puts paid to your race with the strength of the field that we do have here in each of the classes.
Yeah, especially in these 30-minute races, the hour-long ones. 2-hour races, you'll be able to claw back so much, but 30 minutes in a GT race is pure sprint territory. And we're now riding with Daniel Merchant, running 4th in class, a driver who I've seen before come into series and absolutely dominate. So that shows you the quality of a Pro-Am class that Daniel, I mean, it may not be just his circuit at the moment, but I do generally see him in the BMW, and he is doing a great job at the moment of closing down on Rance, who is the AM leader. So that battle, while it may look like a battle on track, it's not for the points at this stage of the race. But every position counts, and even if you've finished 4th in your class, you still want to say you finished in the top 10 overall, probably.
Oh yeah, so you certainly do. I think that blood starts to boil when you're abroad in a close racing like this, but you really got to keep a cool head and just realise where you are and where your competitors are, and really try and block off the other cars around you, and make sure you stay ahead of your class field to get them top points. You don't get any extra points for being in front of another class. As we saw there, Christensen taking that inner loop absolutely the wrong way, and luckily to keep his car still on track. But I suppose that's where the pro drivers come into their own. When they start losing the car, they're able to quickly correct any mistakes to save what would be race-ending catastrophes out there. But we do have an incident replay here. Gordon Haig coming down to the inner loop. Oh, this is not going to end well. Side by side, Gordon Haig just getting slightly pushed out, and that was unfortunate. There was not a lot he could do. Luckily, he's in a place where he can get round.
I would have probably
best rejoin.
I would probably have chosen to go the other way, shall we say, and going to run off to do that. In another situation, Hellier is now back into 3rd place. Powell has actually really kept on with Hellier, and Hellier is in the pit lane. So if we had a mistake for Hellier somewhere on the circuit, because he did drop down a position to Powell, and now he's in the pit.
He could have a drive-through penalty. Obviously, there is a 15 incident level maximum before you get a drive-through, and then 8 after that. It'd be interesting to see, has he stopped in his box or has he driven through? Let's have a look what happened. So this is on board with Aaron Powell. So in front you can see,
he's crabbing.
He's come off. Look at the front right. Look at the front left, of his car. He has got some serious damage. So he looks like he's probably hit the wall coming out of the inner loop, and that's really put pay for his double championship. And certainly being in that pit will not help. He's currently got out on track using his fast repair. He is currently in P23rd, but well down the order in the pro overall. So currently 11th in the pro. Still will score points on there, but I'm just noticing Matt Loveridge is piling down the timing towers there. So something looks like it's happened to Matt Loveridge.
Yeah, that's a strange one with Hellier, because he wasn't that far ahead of Powell, and yet the replay which we have doesn't show the incident and doesn't show Powell right up with Hellier. So the gap wasn't that big, so it can't have been a huge incident there for the winner of race 1, but it does mean that it lets Wills well and truly off the hook. Aaron Powell will be delighted in 2nd place, and Matt Chambers moves up into 3rd place, and it allows Max Wolf up into 4th overall in the Pro-Am. So yeah, and we could very much see our first Am into the top 10 during this race, with Rance a bit further back. But you look back to the bottom end of the top 20, we got Frayne, Behrens, and now Hellier.
Certainly is, but I'm just looking at the team championship, and this is a perfect illustration of how a team can maximise their points. So Aaron Powell currently in 2nd place overall in this race, 2nd place in the Pro. He does have his teammate Matty Chalmers behind him in 3rd, but then you've got Max Wolf topping out in the Evo SR team in the top of the Pro-Am categories. So they will score 2nd for being in the Pro, and they will score maximum points being in that Pro-Am if Max Wolf can keep it there. We did see on the first lap he was in this exact position, and unfortunately come a cropper. So let's hope, and obviously I'm touching wood here, that I don't commentate Cassim. Currently got 7 minutes now left of this second 30-minute race. And it's been again action-packed with lots of incidents, some big names getting taken out of the wayside, such as Thomas Cope and Hellier there, as we saw. I'm not sure what happened to Hellier. I don't know if you can find out there so we can have a look. It looked like it might have been a self-imposed incident there with Hellier, but I'm sure if anybody can find it, or Lewis can find it. But yeah, it's great on track. Gives opportunities for other drivers to maximise the points. And like I said, with the point structure we've got in this league, is that if you do make a mistake, you're not going to lose a mountain of points. You know, as long as you're within the top 15 of your class and within 3 laps of the leader, you will score points. And the difference is, 1st to 2nd is only a 2-point difference, so it's 15 points for the win, 13 points for 2nd, and every position after that is only 1 point difference. So you can see how close it's going to be going into the later round. So if you do have a bad round or a bad day at the office in your mid-pack within a race, you're still going to be scoring some valuable points in your category, and then points go across all 4 classes that we've got here: Pro, Pro-Am, Am, and Rookie class. So, you know, some valuable points to be had across the field. But Harry Wills seems to have it all pretty much at the moment sold up, 5.5 seconds ahead of Powell, so can take a little bit of a risk out of this race. To be able to make sure that he can come home, not really being pressurized by anyone around him. So Harry Wills has it all on himself to lose himself. Max Wolf there in 4th place, keeping a great lead at the moment in the Pro-Am. Stevens, as we're watching there, in 6th place, 2nd place in the Pro-Am, and as we can see there, Fowler. So this battle for the 2nd place in the Pro-Am is certainly heating up into the tail end of this race. Chris Rounds in 10th place is still leading out the Am category, and has had an exceptional race at the moment. Just stuck in the middle of a couple of Pros and Pro-Ams, with he's got Thompson and Bingham behind him in 11th and 12th, with Madsia there in 15th place, quite a way back from Chris Rance. So he's pretty much knows that he's got that 2nd place overall in the Am. In 3rd place of the Am, we do have Simeon Molkev in 21st position, up 20 positions from where he started. And then in the top of the rookie class, we got Matthew Gerard still maintaining that lead in P25th, with 2nd place Jakub Semesky in 32nd place. With 3rd place our race 1 rookie winner Richard Jameson Smith, not having it all his own way in this 2nd race, but sort of looking on board now with Tom Bingham just having a bit of a battle there with Thompson. As we see, I think that was Chris Rance there just coming off.
I think it was Powell. Dean Powell. I thought it was Aaron Powell for a minute, but it's Dean Powell who just side by side with Daniel Merchant. And there's nothing either of the drivers could have done. Both of them tried to give room, and I would say that's just one of them racing incidents there. But Powell done very well to back up to try and rejoin the track as safely as he can. And looking at the finishing order, we can't see anybody falling down the tower, so we expect that happened as well. Here we are with Tom Bingham, one of the admins for the league. Finally, Tom, you're back into the top 10 here tonight. Sitting, I mean, there's more pro-ams than pros in the top 10 at the moment, with all the incidents that have been happening. Because behind Bingham, you've got Rance, who's leading the AM category. Borkland, who we thought was going to be a big tip to do well here tonight. Yomantis, Brain, Mad Surge, Helia, and Berens. I mean, what a field just to have behind you, Tom. So just don't look in your mirrors. I wouldn't look in your mirrors.
I can imagine Tom sat in his rig. We haven't got his cam, but he'll be there at his rig with his tongue out to the side, super concentrated.
Oh, Helia in the pits.
Ooh.
Helia back in the pits again. Is this maybe too many X's for the race 1 winner, as Elliot Helia comes round the final corner, goes to the inside, and yeah, he just heads straight for pit lane. So yeah, be interesting to see why he's been into the pits twice.
Yeah, certainly not damaged, so it must have been an incident. But just watch here to see if he drives straight through, and if he has, he's reached that 15-point incident level. We can see him just trundling down.
Yeah, it looks like it.
It certainly looks like, well, he would have been at the front end of this pit stall, so still opportunity for him to get him. Nope, it certainly looks like he has reached his incident level. So not having the best second race here is Elliot Helia. Still 10th in class, so still valuable points on offer, but he won't be concentrating on that. He'll be looking at the fact that he's just piled down the timer screen for one incident that looks like was self-imposed, and then obviously hitting that 15 incident level to get that drive through. And currently on board with the Ford, that's looking a little bit better than it did in that first race, is Jacob Berens in P16th at the moment. But looking further back, Michael Hooper in 28th, having a really good fight with Goldberg in front of him. This is a positional change in class, so Michael Hoopla managing to get Goldberg there, coming down the chute into turn 6. So a great passing move, and that puts Hoopla up into 10th place overall in the Pro-Am category.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the field. We seem to have a few more stoppages than we did in the last race. Probably 47 cars still running out on circuit roughly at this moment in time. But we should be now on to the last lap. And Wills is leading by 7.1 seconds out in front from Aaron Powell, and Chambers another 3.5 seconds back, where we have also Matt Wolf 7 seconds ahead. Max Wolf, sorry, 7 seconds ahead of this camera car of Oscar Christensen for RS Competition Esports, the Danish driver, just holding off the crowd, shall we say, of Pro-Am drivers: Stevens, Thompson, Fowler, Merchant. I'm going to just put it this way: where's Thompson come from? Because it was Stevens, Fowler, Merchant, and Bingham last time we looked, and Bingham down now to 12th and about 4 seconds off his pack. So I don't know if Tom, maybe we commentated cursed or put a bit more pressure on Bingham after that, and he seems to have fallen slightly back from this, but he's still up there looking at a good position. But the checker flag will be coming out for Wills very, very shortly. He crosses the line now, and he takes the victory, a dominant victory from pole position, we can say. Aaron Powell in second place, and Chambers coming home in third. The Twisted Racing car of Wills doing donuts there down at turn 1 and finding the wall. Max Wolf comes home first in Pro-Am category, ahead of Thompson, who steals it on the line from Stevens, Fowler and Merchant. And Rance will take the Am category win ahead of Moldakev if he makes it through. It looks like he will do at the end of this race. Just having a look as he on the time screen. Yeah, Moldakev makes it through from Surge, and then for the Am winner, I'm just seeing when they will cross the line now. Apologies for this. I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, they're all coming across the line here, but I mean, that was an exciting end mid pack to race two. There's a lot of incidents out there. I think Harry Wills got the perfect start and had the perfect opportunity to stretch his lead, having them two pro am drivers behind him, really able to stretch out. Was but under a lot of pressure, but unfortunately, our second place driver did have a little bit of an incident. Looks like on the inner loop that really put pay to his chances of trying to close down Wills. And since that happened, Wills pretty much dominant there in race number two. That's two different winners we've had here in our two 30-minute races for the very first round of this Performance Link GT3 Club. And while obviously they're all finishing, we will let the results scroll up. We won't go through the full grid. You'll see them come up. But what we will do is we will start with the interviews, because I'm pretty sure that we're going to have quite a few interviews coming on. So we'll grab Tom Bingham and bring him into the box. Tom, welcome to the commentary box. How was that for you, mate?
Oh, just spin as much as I can, I think is my aim of the game. So no, all damage caused was my own fault today, definitely. No, nobody else to blame. The racing was pretty ridiculous actually. Some incredibly close battles. It was it was wild. Really good fun.
I mean, just talk us through the start of that race and the apprehension with having that second, obviously, safety lap with a grid here of 55 cars. I think that was a stroke of genius.
Yeah, well, we're getting sort of a mixed bag from the drivers themselves. But it did result in no major incidents in race one or race two in the first couple of corners. So I think it worked. Will we adopt it going forward? I'm not sure. Potentially not. But just for this track, I know it's the first three corners are absolutely awful for incidents here, especially with such a big grid. So we'll see what happens in the next race.
Yeah, it definitely is. And obviously, we got first round down. We got another 11 rounds to go. Which rounds are you particularly looking forward to?
All of them apart from this one. Well,
Well, at least you got the worst one out of the way then.
yeah, you know me. I'm not a fan of this one, but I was to be honest, I was starting to get a little bit of flow towards the end. It was it was coming to me towards the end. I can just about see the appeal now.
Actually, mastered the track there. But Tom, is there anything else you'd like to tell the viewers about what might be coming up in this series?
Yeah, just some crazy good racing. I mean, we've got some 1 hour races, we've got a couple of 2 hour races thrown in there as well for some mini endurance, just to really test the drivers. It's everyone's battling for some really good prizes. We've got some very very close scoring on the new scoring system that we're working on. So I'm sure the commentators have told you about that. This is where they tell me they haven't.
Yes, we have. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of
What's
course.
scoring?
How do you doubt us?
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, no, and just some more Coast battling, and interested to see how the season progresses. But we got some major tracks out there, and we got some major prizes. So what's not to like?
And massive grids as well, so lots of action for our viewers to watch in 4K. So thanks for joining us, Tom. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you calm down and deal with the aftermath?
I'd like to thank all the guys that took to the grid, everybody that came and watched the races on the YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it, and getting the debut season up and running. All the Performance Link guys, yourself, Andy, Dave, Lewis, that's doing the broadcasting. So just everybody that knows me, and my wife. Can't forget my wife.
Yeah, you can't do that, mate.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tom, and we look forward to your wise and wisdom words in the future rounds.
Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.
Yeah, Tom. It looks like we looking at a few. Did you want to take one of the drivers there, Dave?
Yeah, we can draw in Russell Fowler, is also driving for a Performance Link team. Russell, how did your first night in this championship go?
Well, better than expected, to be fair.
Well, that's always good news. We saw you. I mean, I can't quite. I think it was second in the first race, possibly in terms of class. And then in that race, you were stuck in a massive battle between Tom, Daniel Merchant, even Tom Bingham got involved as well in the back end of that battle on the last few laps. But then you also had Chris Rance, who's a completely different category. So what was your mindset to sort of deal with that fight, or was it just whatever car comes near me, I'll fight them?
No, well, so in general, I think I was very mindful of which class the drivers were in, and there's no point in taking risk to either overtake or fight and overtake if the other guy's in a different class. So, although sometimes it's good to have a car or two between you and maybe somebody that's in your class a couple of cars back. So, yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. All a bit of a blur, to be honest. So I'd like to say I was, calm of mind all the way through, but it wasn't exactly like that. It felt a bit frantic at times.
Yeah, it did look it at times, but it did come out brilliantly in terms of race, and it was really close but clean racing as well throughout, which isn't easy around this Watkins Glen circuit.
No, exactly. There was some big incident in the first race because I think I went from 18th to 8th or something.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not quite sure what caused it. I actually did hit somebody, literally T-boned someone. I'd slowed right down and I thought, well, that's my race over. But by some miracle, I didn't pick up too much damage. I had it affected me a bit on the straights, but otherwise I was still able to be quite competitive. So very, very lucky, I think, not to take more damage in that contact. But
So we've got Watkins Glen out the way. We head to another American circuit in Sebring. How's your feelings towards that circuit?
Well, I'm usually quite positive, but I have to say, Sebring is one of those that I've tried to learn, and I just don't like it. I think it's something to do with the fact it's very flat and open. There's no references really, and it's just really hard work to learn it. So, and I hate night races. So I'd love to be positive, but I'm kind of not looking forward to that one. But we'll see how it goes. Everyone's in the same boat, so yeah.
Well done on your performances here tonight. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we move on to the next interview?
Yeah, sure. Shout out to well, this league has been, I know, a labour of love for Andy and Tom. So really, really pleased it's got off the ground. I think the guys have done an incredible job. It's very professional. So well done, guys. First, and secondly, just a big thank you to my wife and kids for putting up with my sim racing habit without too much without too much fuss.
Yeah, I think we can all say that about our families, but well done on your results again, and we'll see you next week for Sebring.
Indeed, thank you.
So we'll just move over to our other interviews and we'll bring Jacob in. Jacob, welcome to the commentary box. Obviously, our one and only Ford GT3 driver. I mean, how was the experience of driving with that? We saw the first race and the pinball effect at the top of the S's, but how was that for you overall, mate?
Yeah, the pinball thing, that hurt quite a bit actually. And the for the GT 3.5, as one of my team members dubbed it, was, it's all right. It's not as bad as people would like to have it, but the second race was more fun for me. Drove up, I think, 33 positions. So
how are you seeing your chances going forward in the GT?
Well, I need to improve, definitely. The car is the bus stop here really exposed the weakness of this car, which is that it can't bounce in its perfectly flat track, and it can't hit curbs. It is a death sentence to hit curbs. So Sebring is going to be really fun because that is known for having perfectly smooth tarmac, and you can run really stiff and low caster. No problem.
Should be good. But no, I mean, we got the first round out of the way, another 11 rounds to go. Plenty of time to master the driving attributes of the Ford. But it's great to see the Ford GT3 car on there. And yeah, thanks for joining us, Jacob. Is anyone you'd like to give a shout out before we get through our many other drivers that are waiting in the wings to have an interview?
A special shout out to RJL Coating Seed Racing and Santa Flixola. the team, of course, and Tom Bingham for putting this on. He's trying new things, and I like it. So I can't wait to see what Sebring brings.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us, Jacob, and look forward to Sebring next week.
Thank you for letting me join.
No problem. And Fast and Frantic, we're going to have a look. And I think we should take Harry Wills, the winner of race number 2, and just see how it went for him, Dave.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same as I saw him pop up in the interview room. Harry, a great second race for you, dominating the race in the end. But first of all, how did the first race go for you?
Words that aren't swearing. Not great. We'll go with that one. Clipped the barrier on the inside to the S's or the chicane, and ended up with probably 30 degrees of left steering. But still managed to finish in the right place to obviously get the first spot for this one. So, it was all right. It was tolerable. So, first race was all right. Second race, I didn't see anyone really. Quite boring.
Yeah, in the second race, did you feel like when you had that 5-second lead, you were safe, or were you looking behind, seeing obviously there's Tom Cope, there was Hellier trying to get through the field, and then they both had incidents. So, did that sort of stop your nerves up at the front a little bit, because obviously they had pulled away in race 1 a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Thomas Cope was still in it, I wouldn't have probably have had the win. Same with Elliot. I mean that's yeah. I mean, for me, I've come here to race. I like to have a race, even if I finish 4th or 5th. I enjoy the battle. I enjoy the racing, and to see him climbing down the relative, I thought, hey, we're going to have a bit of some fun here. But then obviously, a move that was committed by another driver kind of put the light out on that, and then it didn't happen. So, I mean, on the whole, it was a good night of racing for a lot of people. I just wish there was a bit more competition in that second race.
Yeah, it's one of them races where we go, I would like some more competition, but if the competition was there and you ended up losing the race, you sort of don't want it there, shall we say?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, yeah, I've won a race and it's great, and I know there's probably 4 other guys out there that would probably rather swap with me, but
yeah,
it's just a bit of a shame when your competition who's working hard to close you down, and he's working hard, and he's on it, and it gets snuffed out by what happened. Just a bit of a shame to see it happen, and I was looking forward for Elliot to get on the back and throw some moves and see what happened, but. I won the race. It was good, and I mean, it was enjoyable evening.
In terms of a championship, I presume you're planning to do all the rounds, and if so, what are you looking at in terms of going for a title challenge or top 3? What's your aim for the season?
I mean, if I can finish some races, that'll be great. If I can keep the wheels pointing in the right direction rather than looking like Bambi, that'll be even better. To be really honest with you, I've come here to have some fun, have some battles, race against some like-minded people. If I get that out of it, for me, whatever championship points I get or where I finish will be great. If I win the championship, great. But ultimately, I just want to race around clean people, like-minded people, and have a good time. And that's what we're here for, really. So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably in a fairly good position for the championship at the minute, but there's another 11 rounds to go. So, see how that pans out.
Yeah, and before we let you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before the next interview?
I obviously I run Twisted Racing Team. That's my team. All my guys at Twisted, we're a good bunch of people, and we have a lot of fun. And obviously thanks to Tom and everybody else for putting it together, and you guys for obviously broadcasting it. It's it's good fun to do on a Sunday night, and it looks quite promising. A couple of creases to iron out, but every league has them, and I'm sure they will do in time.
Well done on your win today, and we'll see you next week for Sebring.
That you shall. All the best, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So we'll just have our final word, and we'll bring in Lydia Rossa, our only female driver on the grid. Welcome to the commentary box, Lydia. How was that for you?
It was wonderful. What a day. Or
What's it like on the other side of the fence? Obviously, you're normally one of the admins for your league, but obviously you're racing in this series. How is it being on the other side of the fence?
well, it was just fun. I'm trying to have a positive spirit because yeah, it was quite bumpy to say the least, but it was a really fun race. A lot of great people on the track, so I guess it's like a rough beginning, but hopefully it's gonna be a sweet end to all of this.
Well, definitely is. Obviously, you're in that AM category, and we got the new point system in this league, where as long as you finish the races, you're going to score some half decent points. Is that where you're aiming? Just to be clean, try to be as clean as you can, as consistent as you can, to try and get them points and see where you finish at the end of the season.
Yeah, but a thumbs up for you to make this happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great to have obviously female representative on the track. I mean, what would you say to any other female driver that wants to get into league racing? Would you advocate it, and would you push them to try and join these league races?
I'm gonna start with telling you that I think the main issue here is when you have, I don't know, 50 overconfident young males driving supercars. It's gonna be carnage, and that's what we got. And but I didn't manage to stay clear of it. That was my strategy, just to stay clear of the wrecks. But somehow I was. Didn't quite get that through. So to my peers driving with y'all guys, it's actually super fun. It's super fun, even with all the ups and downs. It's great social.
Yes, I
It's a
mean, I think
great.
that's what it is, isn't it? It's gaining the confidence, gaining more experience out on track. I mean, this is an extremely large grid, 55 cars, and we could even go up to 62 because we do have 62 sign-ups. So I suppose it's all about experience, being around so many cars and being able to get. So, if nothing else, you're gonna learn how to drive with lots of cars around you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's gonna create a better driver out of you, and you clock in hours. And at the end of the day, for me, it's a really busy life, and I haven't been driving the whole summer. And just to have like a competition, your friends are in it. It makes you, it makes you drive, makes you take time for iRacing and your rig, which is important because it's easy to skip it and just have it collect dust. So.
Very,
This
very, very true.
and
But-
of course it's great fun. And I
Well,
even Tom Bingham, it was fun to compete with him. I had a moment where I was trying to defend from him and so yeah, a great day. Oh, you remember the good parts of it, so thank you so much.
No, definitely. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Lydia?
Yeah, Alexander Scarrett. I'm cheering for Alexander to take the trophy of the whole pro aliens. So yeah.
Always rooting for the underdog. But thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing that lovely pink livery of your Mercedes in some of all the rounds here on Performance Link GT3 Cup. But thanks for joining us in the commentary box, and you go enjoy yourself now.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our interviews. Dave, I mean, we've had a lot of drivers saying, there's been a few incidents out on track. They want that close battling, some don't. I mean, it's with a grid of 55 cars plus. You're going to get them incidents, and it's where you're going to put the car and how you're going to deal with them sort of incidents, because they're going to crop up in a race with 55 plus cars out on track.
Yeah, you're always going to get them little incidents, and that's why every championship has an appeals process if you want to appeal it. But most of the time, it is just good-natured racing that hasn't quite gone to plan. I mean, I've always said it when I've run championships in real life that yes, you didn't mean it, but maybe a penalty has to be applied here or there, even if you didn't mean it, because it's just a mistake. And those happen. And with 50 cars plus to deal with while you're out on circuit, it'd be impossible for us all to not have any incidents and no driver mistakes. And well, it'd be alien like if it actually happened for 50, 60 drivers. So, we even saw mistakes from the top drivers here tonight. So it wasn't. Um, Anything malicious, and that racing will clean up as people start to get to know people's different skill sets and things like that. And to be honest, for Watkins Glen, for the S bends at the start of the lap and the amount of drivers we had on the grid, I really thought it was quite clean racing compared to what we could have had.
Yeah, well, 100%. Watkins Glen is notorious for them blind corner incidents, and we did see a few here. But I mean, overall, the incidents were really low for what is normally a high attrition rate from drivers. I mean, I think we only had about 5 drivers in the first race that didn't finish within the top 3 laps. And I'm just looking down the second race. I mean, there wasn't that drivers, probably a bit more in the second, but I think you always get the heated horns in the second race that come out. But I mean, overall, I think it's been an excellent first round. Got the first Format 8 under our belt, and we look forward now to Sebring, an hour-long race. What do you reckon that's going to bring, Dave?
Well, that's going to bring a new challenge to everybody, because here, having the 30-minute race, if people want to get the moves made quickly, get through and things like that. Whereas the hour-long race, you've got tyres to think about, you've got fuel to think about. You've also don't have to make the moves on the first couple of laps, or you might lose 10 seconds. You've got the whole hour to get it back, and that will come in as well in the 2-hour races. So really, the drivers can take their time a little bit more around Sebring. It's a wider circuit. You've got those changes in surfaces from the runway in the end of the lap and the start of the lap to an actual tarmac roads throughout the rest of it. So it's going to be really interesting. And as Jacob Bones says, it's not exactly a smooth track. So that will bring out some interesting parts in the cars, especially that Ford GT by the sounds of it.
It certainly does, but yeah, that is next week in Sebring. So that brings us to the end of this broadcast here at Watkins Glen. We have our first round under our belt, and I think overall it's been a roaring success. A couple of incidents, but that's just racing. So, big thank you to our main sponsors, Performance Link, Green Future Technologies, and TC Simography, as well as SDK Gaming for providing us with the wonderful overlay that we do on our broadcast. So from myself, Andy Thompson, from Dave Whitehouse, alongside me, and Lewis Arara, who's done a fantastic job in the production box. We look forward to seeing you at 8 o'clock BST times next Sunday for an hour-long race around Sebring. So until then, good night.